Thanks for having us on.
Appreciate you listening.
No problem. All right, Ed and Aaron. Well, let's get rolling into it. So we're talking about Spider-Man, right? Is what we're make sure.
Yeah.
All right, I'll start right now. Here we go.
All right.
Welcome to the worst of the best podcast. You wanted the best. Well, they didn't freaking make it. So here's what you get. From Canada
And
Houston and New Jersey,
Ryan and
Ed and Aaron.
welcome to the Worst of the Best podcast. I'm your host. And with me today, I have some very special guests. And you guys are part of the Gamer Gator production. And that's kind of how we're doing this together. I guess you could say I've met you through our boss, CEO, Zip. And of course, the listeners of my podcast have heard Zip guest spot a couple times on my show, because basically I lost my brother Ruben to a tragic accident. No, I'm just
That's funny.
He's alive and well. But my brother, he had to move on to other things in his personal life, and he may one day come back. Since his departure, I've had to continue the show, and happy to do so. And because of that, though, I brought in other guest hosts, which is kind of fun too, because we get to hear different voices and ideas. And this is State Your Take with Ed and Aaron. So why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves, tell us where you're from and what your podcast is about, where everyone can find you.
This is Edward.
Yeah, and my name is Aaron. And yeah, we have a podcast called State Your Take with Ed and Aaron. We kind of just talk about current events. We're both in Houston. Yeah. I'm originally from New Jersey.
And I'm originally from Houston. Born and raised here.
But you're also Nigerian.
I am also Nigerian. There's also a huge Nigerian base in Houston. We are for Nigerians what San Francisco is for gay people.
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot of us.
Or you're also what Nigerians are to Houston, what Canadians are to Canada.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Canadians in Canada.
So we're just like second Nigeria.
Yeah, that's right. A lot of Canadians did migrate to Canada, which was very convenient.
Yeah, it just kind of worked out for you guys.
Yeah.
We're both in Houston. You can find our podcast pretty much anywhere you find podcasts. We come out with a new show every Monday. And yeah, we're part of the Gamma Gator network. We're happy to be here, Ryan. Thanks for inviting us, bro.
Oh, no, it's my pleasure to have you on. And I will say for my listeners, I listen to your show. Everyone that I've ever had guests on the show, either their family or friends, but if they're a podcast host, I don't arbitrarily just bring other podcast hosts on my show. I'm a listener of their show. Well, one, because I want to be genuine, and I feel like I kind of already know you guys because I listen to you guys and I'm a fan of you guys. I started listening to you because of Zip and his No Redeeming Qualities podcast. He had you guys on. I'm like, well, if Zip likes these guys, I'm going to try them out. I do. I like your take. So when you state your take, I do like your take. I also like listening to podcasts that don't do what I do. You know what I mean? Like, I want to listen to people that are talking about different things and sharing different insights and topics that I don't share and talk about, because it gets a little bit like a vacuum if I keep hearing the same thing over and over. You did mention, Ed, that you're from Nigeria. What I like about you guys is you give a perspective that I don't have. Okay, you're both African American or black, and I'm white and Canadian. So our background and our view of life, and especially in today's climate, it's unique, and I really appreciate what you guys, your take on things, because I'm learning things and understanding things that I know it sounds corny and cliche, but we're building bridges with understanding and dialogue. So I just want to thank you guys for your calm message in these troubled times.
Nah, man, that's awesome. Thank you for saying that. It's really sweet. Like I told you before, I was listening to a couple of your episodes beforehand too, and I think it was the episode with you and your kids. You were talking about "Sing the Sorrow" from AFI. I was listening to that album a couple of weeks prior to that, and I was like, yeah, this is a really good album. And then hearing you guys wax poetic about that, and then December Underground, I was like, this is cool. I like this. I can get into this. It's really nice of you to say, though. Thank you very much. We appreciate your show, too.
We definitely appreciate that.
Well, thank you. But we're going to talk about something light. On our show, we don't get into politics too often. It just, whatever the climate of the day, it might sneak into the conversation, of course. So if any listeners are coming over for your podcast, coming to hear what this one's about, I want to say that our show, what we do is we just kind of pick whatever the best of something is, whether it's music, movies, comics like today, even conspiracy theories. We find whatever list has been provided by the public, and we then pick what we think is the worst from that best. And so anyone can say, hey, that's the best song, that's the best movie, that's the best this, or that's the best film from that artist. And we'd like to say, well, everyone, no matter who they are, has something that's at the bottom. So it's our job to pick the worst. We do something not negative, but we kind of just flip it a little bit and have fun talking about something that's not the greatest. So you guys got to pick the topic.
We picked Spider-Man movie franchises.
Now, may I ask why you picked this?
Because there are a lot of them. Like it's been redone like what 3, maybe 4 times at this point.
Yeah, essentially you can count 4.
Yeah, it's the same story essentially. I would say except for one is probably like kind of different. Mm-hmm. But I think for the rest of it's the same story that's been rehashed about 3 times now.
Yeah, officially. And there's been some good ones.
There's been some bad ones.
So we're here to talk to you about the best of the worst, or the worst of the best.
That's right.
Or the best of the best of the worst.
Or the worst of the worst. The worst of the best. Yeah. So what we'll do is we'll go in chronological order of the Spider-Man releases. We'll go in chronological order. We'll just speak briefly about each one, the year it came out, the impact it had maybe on comics or us as viewers of these films. If you're listening to this podcast because you saw the Spider-Man tag and you think that we're going to be Spider-Man experts, we're not. I don't think I am. I don't know about you guys. But what we are is, for me personally, I enjoy movies. I enjoy comic book movies. I'm not a fanatic about it, meaning I don't know when each one was written or which comic it drew from or things like that. It's just as a fan of movies and these films in general, there was a couple that didn't quite, make the cut for the best. But the first film was Spider-Man, and it came out in 2002. How old were you guys when this one came out?
I was 22.
You were 22?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
No. I am doing bad.
I was like, wait a second. I was 15. How old are we?
Yeah, no, I'm tripping.
I was 15.
Yeah.
I was about to be 16.
Same. I mean, we're about the same age, though.
Yeah. So this came out my senior year in high school.
I'm tripping.
And I remember it vividly because...
What did I do last night?
I don't know, dude. We had just gotten a new movie theater built in our town. And I was living in a pretty small town. This was a big deal. And they were like getting it done just in time for Spider-Man because this was going to be the biggest movie of all time. Sure enough, that week that it opened up was the first weekend of Spider-Man. And it was like a huge party. Tons of people dressed up like Spider-Man. Kids came out. They had people taking photos. They had balloons and just all kinds of celebratory crap. And I saw this movie in theaters, I think, 3 times.
Oh, wow.
Because I was so... Spider-Man's my favorite comic book character of all time. Like, full disclosure. I certainly wouldn't call myself an expert on him. Yeah, I got a lot of fond memories reading Spider-Man comic books and all that kind of stuff. So this was a pivotal moment in my life, personally.
What drew you to Spider-Man as a kid?
He had the full mask and suit getup, right? So, and this was something that they kind of explored in the Into the Spider-Verse movie, where anybody could be underneath the mask. There was a moment in, I think it was Todd McFarlane's run, where this robber is robbing an old white dude, and Spider-Man comes out and he saves the day, right? And then the dude says to Spider-Man, the guy was getting robbed by a black guy or a Hispanic guy, something like that. Spider-Man saves the day. The guy turns to Spider-Man. He's like, oh, thank you so much. You know how those people can be. And, that little like implication of racism that they never really dove too deep in Marvel Comics, but there was always sort of that underlying message there. And Spider-Man pins this guy up against the wall and he says, what color do you think I am underneath this mask? And that was just like a huge moment where I was like, oh, wow. Yeah, I can't be Peter Parker, but I can be Spider-Man. You know what I'm saying? So that was always kind of a cool thing for me. I always gravitated towards the characters that were either some sort of animal hybrid or alien or fully covered in a mask because they kind of disguised whoever they were, their alter ego, so to speak.
They did a good job about making him like an everyman.
Spider-Man? Oh, yeah. He always had his problems.
Yeah.
He had girl trouble.
He got beat up a lot.
Yeah. Crap kicked out of him a lot.
Yeah, so it kind of gravitated towards him too because it's not like Batman where he has all the gadgets and everything. It's like Superman where he's like a god on Earth. He's just
regular dude.
Yeah, kind of a regular dude.
Yeah.
Say with spider powers.
Yep. Wasn't anything a spider can.
Yeah. My initial introduction to Spider-Man was different than you guys. I was a little bit older when this came out. I was 27 when it came out. I was actually the same age as Tobey Maguire. We were both born in 75.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Oh, wow. You're old. Yeah. Thanks, guys.
No, that's not what I was thinking. But
Oh, okay, sure. Sure. When this came out, of course, I was knee deep in film. My teenage comic book films were the original Batmans with Michael Keaton. I saw 1989's Batman with Michael Keaton, Jack Nicholson as a Joker when I was 14. So kind of your guys' age when this one came out. That was my introduction to comic book movies. Spider-Man's unique because you got a character that the way he just performs as Spider-Man, you can't do it with practical effects.
Right.
Even with Superman, you could kind of get away with some stuff because they can kind of, he's got strength and what have you and speed, and they did a little silly flying stuff with Christopher Reeve, and you kind of got away with it. Spider-Man, you can't really fake, and they tried to with some early TV shows, and they were horrible. Mm-hmm. And they're horrible for a reason, because no matter even how good the storyline may, they're terrible storylines, but no matter how good they were, you can't perform as a Spider can and do those stunts and stuff. So when this came out, I was skeptical. One, because I was never really a Marvel fan. I was more of a DC fan. I love Superman as a character. I love Batman as a character. I collected those comics as a kid. And I'm not really versus one or the other, but I just really liked the Batman and Superman characters. And I remember Spider-Man always seemed to me like a dweeb. He spins webs, and there's nothing really great about him. And I was really skeptical about this movie. So I went into the theater skeptical. My friend dragged me to the theater. Says, no, I'm really good. Like you guys, he was very excited and very, very hopeful and excited about a film about Spider-Man. And I'm like, this is sure. I'll go see it, but I really don't think you can entertain me with a guy in a spider suit for 2 hours. And I was wrong. And I was happily wrong. I left thinking, wow, what a great vision. And it was a lot of fun. And because of the films, I actually now like the Spider-Man character because I see how he is, how he talks when he fights, his lightheartedness, his kindness. The Peter Parker character and the way that Spider-Man is, I've really enjoyed. I was wrong. Spider-Man is rightfully so. He actually, the character, is the top selling overall merchandise character of all comic book characters. He even beats out the Avengers. He beats out Superman and Batman by a country mile.
Yeah, dude. It was pretty impressive. And it's funny that you say that because my relationship with Batman is similar to your relationship with Spider-Man. Whereas before, I'd seen Batman 89 and I was like, oh, this is cool. But I was 5 years old at the time. So anything that you put in front of me was cool. Later on, I got older and I was like, Batman's so weird. He just dresses up like a bat and he just beats up people for no reason. I was like, this guy sucks. And then I saw Batman Begins and then I saw a new take on it. And I'm like, this guy's badass. He just took his whole life and he went and he found a way to fight and he found his way back and now he's saving. God, this guy's cool. I got it. I understood it at that point. You know what I'm saying? It just took a different set of eyes and a different storytelling measure to get me into the character. So that's really interesting how that kind of happens.
Look at that. See, look at movies, building bridges.
I know, right?
This came out in 2002. Tobey Maguire was cast as Spider-Man. He was 27 at the time. This is one of my biggest complaints about the movie franchise up until we'll get to the latest installment. But at the time, I don't remember thinking or even knowing how old Tobey was because he had a baby face and he looked young. We're supposed to believe he's in high school and he's 27. Now, his love interest was Kirsten Dunst playing MJ. She was 20, so she was actually a lot closer to a high school age at that time. Now watching her now as a 44-year-old man, watching Kirsten Dunst, I can understand being 27, kind of ogling over her, but now watching Spider-Man, I feel kind of creepy.
Yeah, dude.
But they're the one that put her in a wet t-shirt contest. Wasn't me. It wasn't me.
Yeah, right? They definitely made it a point to have some sort of sexed up Kirsten Dunst scene.
Yeah.
He was never really like a sex symbol.
Never.
He was more of like an actress,
Yeah.
I watched all the trailers for these movies. I've seen them all these movies, but I kind of watched the trailers just to get the images in my head again. They actually showed the wet t-shirt scene in the trailer, and I was like, okay. I think they kind of wanted to tell guys, like, hey, this isn't a geeky Spider-Man film.
Yeah.
You want to come and it's like the comics that you're reading. All the women are kind of overly done in the comics,
Yeah.
Which I'm not complaining about.
No, it was great. It's iconic. That scene is one of the best ones. That's the Spider-Man kiss.
The upside down kiss. Yeah.
The upside down kiss.
Yes.
Like, that won best kiss at the MTV Awards. Okay, that's an iconic.
Did they say the MTV Awards?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
That's funny. Yeah, I did win Best Kiss. I don't know why I remember that too, but yeah. This movie was huge box office, and I did the adjusted inflation for box office because you kind of have to, because when you see the numbers, the box office at the time, they're very strong numbers at the time, but it's important to have it in today's numbers because it tells you the ticket sales. It gives you an idea of how many people bought a ticket in today's ticket sale prices. If this movie had been released today, with the same amount of tickets being sold in today's market, this movie grossed $1.125 billion.
What?
That makes sense, though. Everyone saw that movie. Like you say, you saw it 3 times.
I did see it 3 times. So it made 1.2 billion?
Yeah,
or would have made 1.2 billion?
Yeah, in 2002 dollar. Yeah, I wish they would go by ticket sales, but this is how much. If this movie was released today, this is the amount it would have made. Yeah.
And so Endgame made $1 billion. Like,
this is Endgame numbers. This is
that's Endgame. So that's
like it was live action Spider-Man. Like we saw the effects of it. Totally makes sense to me.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
To say each movie did about the same. So Spider-Man 2, 1.03 billion, and Spider-Man 3 even made a little bit more than Part 2, 1.08 billion.
Wow, dude.
That sadly makes sense too.
$3.5 billion franchise.
Sam Raimi, what a success story, dude. Dude went from nearly killing his cast on Evil Dead to making 3 of the most successful movies of all time. That's wonderful. I love that.
Part 1, origin story, Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man did a great job, I think. Kirsten Dunst was perfectly cast as MJ. They were a great couple. I think they had good on-screen chemistry. And the main bad guy was Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin, which I thought was a great introductory bad guy to the Spider-Man lore. Great first bad guy to introduce to the movie world, I think, for Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah. Willem Dafoe did a great job, too.
Yeah, dude.
He didn't even need a mask, really.
That's probably my biggest complaint about the movie is that they put a mask on one of the better facial actors that we had and really didn't need one. I get it.
Yeah, I get it.
Looking back on it, I like the Iron Goblin costume a little bit. Like, it's cool looking, but it didn't necessarily lend itself to the character.
Yeah, it's not a huge criticism for me. I just look at Willem Dafoe and do you really need a mask?
Yeah, I agree.
It's interesting that they cast somebody like Willem Dafoe, who does have a very unique face and very almost goblin-esque in its own right. No offense to Mr. Dafoe. So to put the mask on him, I guess it was one of those things where either we make him look like a goblin just because the actor happens to look like a goblin, or we kind of give him a costume with a mask. The costume was pretty cool.
Yeah, I liked it.
Apparently it had 580 separate pieces that took an hour to put on him.
Jeez Louise.
Man.
Wow.
That's crazy.
You wouldn't think that by looking at it. You think it would be pretty simple, but no.
Yeah,
No.
you like this.
And that was Dafoe under the suit. He insisted. That's why it kind of took so long. He wanted to have his movements under the suit.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's what I would want to do too. Like, what's the point of taking a role of a superhero movie if you don't get to wear the suit at some point?
Yeah.
That's the most fun part.
Yeah.
Putting on the suit.
Even if people say hot and sweaty, like just to have, I just want to get pictures of me.
Yeah, just put me in the suit. You know what I'm saying? You mold it to my body, and maybe I get to take it home when I'm done. Have a little side fun action with it. You know what I'm saying?
The idea of actors taking on these roles where their faces are covered, and I always thought that was kind of interesting with the Spider-Man character, even a little bit with Batman, Iron Man, Hulk, of course, because he's just basically all CGI. I wonder how much of the writing is done in some ways in these movies to kind of accommodate. We got to get Robert Downey Jr. on screen almost as much as Iron Man is because it's Robert Downey Jr. You know, we have to have his face, his acting face on screen. Even with Mark Ruffalo, for Endgame, they kind of basically CGI'd his face on Hulk. This is the Mark Ruffalo Hulk. And I just wonder how much of it's done to placate the actor who's playing a covered face. The ones that don't have to worry about it, and this is why it's such a great role to get, is, of course, Superman.
Right, yeah.
Whatever actor plays Superman, you can kind of luck out because glasses on or off, it's the same actor.
I mean, but then again, Henry Cavill had his mustache covered.
Oh,
that was very disturbing.
Can't have a mustache if you're Superman, though. No facial hair allowed. You're like a New York Yankee once you get to be Superman. Like, you have to shave all your facial hair. Your head hair has to be finely coiffed, you know? You can't mess around. You know, you got to be clean.
Because they even CGI his face.
Yeah. You have an eyebrow out of place, they will CGI it.
He had a mustache because of his filming of Mission Impossible.
Yep.
And done at the same time. So they're like, well, we're in the middle of filming right now, principal photography. We don't have enough time for him to shave his mustache and come back without a mustache. What they should have done is they should have given him a beard.
Oh, that would have been great.
Spider-Man?
Superman, yeah.
Yeah, that would have been good.
But he wasn't really dead, so his hair still would have grown.
Yes.
And I heard that when you die, your hair continues to grow anyway.
The science would have worked. He had facial hair. Yeah. If he came back with the black suit with a beard, it would have been a badass Superman. And then there would have been no talk about it, the CGI. I don't know why creative forces don't think like us fans.
Think about the marketing you could have done. Like a sexy, thick-bearded Henry Cavill. Like, you kidding me? Who's not rushing to the theaters to see that?
Well, we know the girls are.
Yeah, exactly, man.
They dropped the ball.
You know what? The three of us, we need to open up our own movie studio. Call us, Hollywood. Figure us out.
Stop fumbling bags.
Yeah, we're right here.
So 2004 showed us Spider-Man 2. Of course, the big one was a huge success. The second one took a darker turn. It's kind of like the Empire Strikes Back of the Spider-Man original trilogy.
Yeah,
So good, though.
good call.
The fight scenes in that Spider-Man are still like top notch to this day.
Dude, it is the gold standard for combat comic book movies. The fight between Doc Ock and Spider-Man that starts on the clock tower and falls down into the subway.
So dope.
Your heart is just pumping through the entire time. They really do emphasize the use of each one of their powers and abilities.
Yeah.
Doc Ock is using all of his arms and he's wrapping Spider-Man up like an octopus. Spider-Man's using his webs to throw the arm of the clock. And he's doing the flips and the tricks and he's swinging the web and he's flipping through the train. And you got that one scene on the pole where he's like pole dancing on it. You're like, this is awesome. I'm getting excited just thinking about it. Man.
It's a great sequel.
At that time, Dr. Octopus is probably the best Marvel villain depiction I've seen at the time.
They were 2 for 2 as far as villains go. Like you got great actors, you got great characters, and you portrayed them phenomenally in 1 and 2. Now when we get to 3.
Well, yeah, we'll get to part 3. What I do like overall about the trilogy, the Tobey Maguire, Sam Raimi trilogy, is the Harry Osborn character, played by James Franco. I love the slow build that they do with him as a character. I think they did a really good job making a story trilogy with James Franco's Osborn character.
Yeah.
Because that comes into fruition when we get to part 3. Because in part 2, he doesn't don the suit. He discovers it at the end of the movie. Is that right?
Correct. He has the helmet, and then he gets so rage-filled.
He finds his dad's place on accident.
Yeah. He's convinced that Spider-Man killed his father, but little does he know he died by his own hand.
That's right. Yeah, if anyone hasn't seen these movies yet, spoiler alerts.
Yeah, spoilers. Wild spoilers for this one.
So I want to give full credit to Sam Raimi and the writing team of this trilogy that they did a great job with the story arc of Harry Osborn. Part 3 came out 3 years after Part 2.
Long time.
Yeah, it went 2 years between the 1 and 2, and then 3 years between parts 2 and 3. I remember being legitimately very excited for Part 3. And why wouldn't I be? Part 1 and 2 knocked it out of the park. The riding high right now, they almost feel like, hey, we can do almost anything we want and people will come. And that's true. They can, and people did. My quick fix for Spider-Man Part 3 would have been to see the conclusion of Harry Osborn turning to the Green Goblin. And yes, having a second villain, sure. But they tried to shoehorn in 3, including the Goblin villain. Sandman, of course, Venom. I think introducing Venom was the logical choice. I think people were clamoring for that. I think people were like, okay, great. You've teased us with Doc Ock. You teased us with the Senior Goblin. Venom is the nemesis for Spider-Man. Special effects in 2007 had been, they're up now. And people were like, let's do it. Let's give us Venom. And I think if they'd done at maximum Venom and Goblin, or even just Venom and Sandman, but I think that would have been a mistake. But Venom and Goblin, I think they could have done it, and I think they should not have had the symbiote ever attach itself to Spider-Man. I think if they just eliminated that storyline and just have Venom go on Brock's character right at the beginning, I think it would have been a more linear story and no silly dancing sequence. What are your guys' thoughts on Part 3?
My thoughts on Part 3 were that, for me, the draw was the Black Suit Spider-Man. Like, when I saw that, I was like, I gotta go see this.
Right.
And honestly, to me, being familiar with Venom as a character and, like, just how pivotal he was in Spider-Man, I feel like that should just be a one-on-one thing. I don't think you have any of the villains in that.
Right, yeah.
Like, that's, to me, I thought that them shoehorning in the Sandman. Well, actually, the thing, they shoehorned in Venom, kind of. Well, he was the one that was shoehorning it, because you got to see... Because you had the Night Surfer arc from Spider-Man, from the first Spider-Man, had that building up to now. You had Sandman's arc building up from the beginning of the movie.
Right.
So it's like they really shoehorned in Venom. And Venom is Spider-Man's nemesis, because the thing is, like, with Venom, things are so different. Because, for one, he can't sense Venom. So that's another thing. And Venom knows who he is. So, like, when in the comic book, the thing about they made Venom so bad was that he would taunt Spider-Man. Like, he would hang around like his Aunt May. He would hang around like Mary Jane. He would mentally.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, that was the beauty of Venom.
Yeah.
And that he was big and strong. He would whoop Spider-Man's ass on a regular.
Yeah.
So it was like, there were so many things that they just kind of like bumbled with Venom. And I was just like so mad about that.
I think 3 was just a product of the movie studio meddling with the creative vision.
Yeah.
Because from what I understand, Sam Raimi had no desire to put Venom in any of the movies. I remember that being something that he said early on, and the internet, as the internet does, killed him for it. Because they were like, we love Venom, put Venom in the movie. And he was like, no, guys, I don't want to put... He had Dr. Kurt Connors from the very beginning. Like, I think the Lizard was going to be the big bad in 3 all along. That was his big plan. And then, you know, he was going to add in Sandman and Hobgoblin, and maybe at some point he was going to add in, because we were working towards Sinister Six.
Which would have been fine.
Which would have been great.
Yeah.
But, you know, the fans are the fans, and the internet was kind of powerful at the time. You know, we got snakes on the plane through the internet. So, yeah, movie studios were listening to the internet more than probably ever at this point.
That was a mistake, too.
And, yeah, and I mean, you could just tell. I mean, Topher Grace is a fine actor. Like, he's very funny. He's very good. But this was not it for him. They had Sandman already from the very beginning of the movie. Very nice tie-in to the original story.
Yeah.
Right.
And then the long build for Hobgoblin. You know, like that was...
Well, the Night Serpent.
Night Serpent, whatever.
Never the Hobgoblin.
He's Hobgoblin.
Yeah,
he's always going to be Hobgoblin to me. Putting Venom in the story was a disservice to not only the fans, because we never truly got the real Venom, and it was a disservice to all the creative people involved, because they had to do something that wasn't a part of the vision, at least I don't think, from the very start. It sucked all the way around, and that's the reason why this movie suffers. Otherwise, there's some good moments in Spider-Man 3.
Oh, yeah, it's not a complete Titanic. It wasn't a disaster movie. It was just, I remember watching this in the theaters, and I remember thinking as I was watching, I was frustrated because it's like, I'm enjoying this part, I'm enjoying this part, I'm enjoying this. And I'm thinking to myself, I feel like I'm watching 3 movies into one film. Like, I felt, stop shoving it down my throat. I wish we could have had the same slow build we had for the first 2 for the third film, because they were going to do parts 4, 5, and 6, and Sam Raimi was on board to do more. There was talk of part 4 right after this one, of course, with the money it made and everything, and it was only because of creative differences and what have you that Raimi dropped out, and so did, of course, Toby. He's like, well, if he's not doing it, I'm not doing it. That's essentially what it was. And so even when this film was out and making money, and even when it was getting kind of panned by critics and fans, they were still going to do a 4th one, and the Lizard was going to be in the 4th one. That was the idea. It's just too bad that the studio didn't have the faith in what they saw with the first 2 films, that fans also want to see a slow build. They don't like multiple villains. And I think multiple villains ruin a lot of superhero films.
Yeah, because villains' arcs aren't given the attention they deserve when you try to shoehorn in all at one time.
Yeah.
You just kind of give a snapshot of a villain, which the interesting thing about a villain is their backstory. Like, what made them this way? And whenever you shoehorn a villain in, you don't get to see that. Like, the best thing about Spider-Man 3 to me was the Sandman.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that was done really good. Yeah, because you saw why he became you saw his motivation, you saw why he became the Sandman. And at some point, I even felt bad for him at some time.
That's kind of villain.
It's just sad that he was kind of tied in with this mess of a movie.
He was an afterthought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They didn't do parts 4, 5, and 6. In 2007's Spider-Man 3 was the last we were going to see Tobey don the suit. Side note for Tobey Maguire's career, he's only been in 2 movies since then. Maybe 3. I didn't memorize it, but no more than 3 since 2007.
Wow.
I'm sure he's eating good after that trilogy, though, man.
Yeah, right. I mean, have any of them really worked that much? I mean, Kirsten Dunst hasn't done much either.
She's done more. She's done a lot. Nothing big blockbuster stuff.
Yeah.
Toby's behind the camera right now. He's doing producing and directing is what he's doing now.
Right, yeah.
James Franco probably the most active one I can think of.
Yeah, he definitely is. But he probably is just doing it just because he's friends with Rogan and all those guys.
Well, it's one of the catch-22s maybe of being in some of these superhero films. Not everyone can be a Christian Bale, where Christian Bale can be Batman, but then he's still just freaking Christian Bale and whatever he wants to do. The guy's a beast of an actor. Sometimes some actors can't kind of escape the cowl, as they say. They're forever what that blockbuster was. I don't know if Tobey Maguire just got tired of acting or what, but he just hasn't really done anything. His last movie was 2014. It was called The Pawn or something like that.
Oh, wow.
If I was an actor, if I can get that cash ticket, I'd just do that. I'd just check in and check out, man. Me, extra stage left.
Yeah, start doing the things that you really want to do.
I think that's what Toby's done. He's now directing and producing movies. He's got money. He doesn't care.
So, yeah, he's fine.
So they took a 5-year break, a lot of studio discussions. They knew they had a moneymaker of a character. You have Spider-Man, Sony Pictures has Spider-Man on their table. The Marvel movies are now getting big. This is 2012. The Marvel universe has really picked up steam, and Sony's like, oh crap, we've got a Marvel character and we want to compete with this and cash in on this comic phase that's kicked in again in 2012. So they came out with The Amazing Spider-Man, and now Andrew Garfield, at the age of 29, dons the suit.
What?
Yeah,
He was 29, dude?
Yeah, he was 29 in 2012.
Oh my God. Wow, dude. That's so weird. Why is he so old? That's nuts, man.
I didn't know Andrew Garfield as an actor before he was cast as Spider-Man. Did you guys have any thoughts on him when he was cast at the time?
Well, he was coming off Social Network at the time.
Yeah,
so
he was a monster in Social Network. Like, he was a beast in that.
He was riding that wave.
Yeah, so I think he was pretty well regarded in that aspect. It was just interesting because he was kind of came out of nowhere. I don't know if he was considered a star, but I think I don't know if Tobey Maguire was considered a star at that point when he got cast.
Yeah, I don't know if he gets that role without Social Network, but at the same time, everyone has all actors have their one thing that gets them into the door.
But then also, like you said, Ryan, you have a cash cow. It's Spider-Man. Like, you're not selling an Andrew Garfield movie. You're selling a Spider-Man movie. So you can really put anybody in that suit and it's going to sell.
Yeah.
And here's the thing about the Batman character, Superman character, all these comic book characters, even Iron Man, Wolverine. I hate it when people say, or Joker. I guess I could list every character. I should do that. So the point I'm trying to make is no matter how great an actor does in whatever role of the character should always supersede whatever an actor has done, for better or for worse. Because it's the characters that I'm going to see in the movie. Christian Bale's Batman, great. Ben Affleck as Batman, I thought he did great. Why? Because I enjoy Batman. I enjoy the Batman. When I'm watching a Ben Affleck Batman film, I'm actually watching Batman. You know, when he's fighting people, I'm not saying to myself, oh, that was a cool Ben Affleck fighting scene.
True.
You know, I'm saying, oh, that's Batman kicking ass. And despite what people say about the Zack Snyder Batmans, I thought he did a great job as Batman. And the fighting sequences of Batman were great.
It's not even Snyder's fault. I think it was you shoehorn some witness. What happens is they have Batman killing people, and everyone's like, "Why is he killing people?" You got to lead to that. You have to put that in backstory as to why that happened. But they didn't. They just have him like shooting folks. It's like, well, how did we get here? But I didn't have a problem with Ben Affleck as Batman.
He's the best on-screen Batman that we've had.
Actually, I agree. Especially as a grizzled, older version of a Batman.
I will die on this hill.
That voice for Christian Bale, that was hard for me, man. It's just, that Batman, oh my God. Yeah. It's so bad. It is so bad. Having him and Bane is like, wait, what?
It's so Batman's like, and Bane's like,
it's like, what are they saying?
They seem to understand each other. Captions, please.
I'm sorry, what'd you say? That was the funniest part in Shazam. Did you ever see Shazam, Ryan?
Yeah, it's fun. It's a fun film.
Oh my gosh. When they're like, oh God, we're getting so off topic, but they're having the superhero, supervillain moment, and like they're a half a mile apart, and they're like, I can't hear you. What'd you say? It's great. It's so fun.
That's good. We don't have MJ in this series. We have Gwen Stacy, which was Spider-Man's one of his other love interests. So Gwen Stacy was played by then 24-year-old Emma Stone. I will say, she's a beautiful woman.
Dude, she was so good as Gwen Stacy.
She was.
Oh, sorry. We're talking about her acting ability. I was talking about her looks.
That's fine. You're not wrong in that.
She is very attractive.
Not wrong in that sense either.
Did you know that her hair is naturally blonde?
Did not know that.
That was actually her hair color. It's not red or brown. It's actually the one reason why she got the role was that's her natural hair color.
That's interesting. I did not know that.
Yeah, I think I saw like some like talent show thing before, like where are they, like where were they before they were stars or something. I saw her.
Interesting. She was really good. She's a good actress. I saw that movie she did. I think it's called Easy A.
Yeah, she's funny as hell in it.
Yeah, really, really freaking good in that.
What's your overall thoughts on the 2012 reboot, so to speak, of The Amazing Spider-Man and Andrew Garfield playing that role?
I personally have been a Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2 apologist for, I guess, 8 or 9 years now. I really enjoyed these movies. I thought that Andrew Garfield was a great Spider-Man. He's a great Peter Parker. I think that they took everything that the Tobey Maguire trilogy did and just amplified it by like 10. The swinging scenes, best swinging scenes in any Spider-Man movie. I'll put all my money on that. The way Spider-Man moves throughout New York City and on the webs is awesome. The camera angles, like opening shot where it's almost when he finally figures out his powers and he builds his suit, that opening first person shot of him swinging and landing on the building and seeing his reflection, like that is something we never saw before. Yeah. And I was just so blown away by this entire movie as far as like the action scenes go. The fight scene between the Lizard and Spider-Man in the school, it was awesome. There's so much to love about this movie, and I think people just take a dump on it because it was so close to the original trilogy that we didn't need another origin story.
Like, I do agree with you on that. Like Andrew Garfield, I thought the visuals were good. I thought that the story was just weird. Kurt Connors as Lizard Man, I felt like they didn't do a great job with him as Lizard Man. Like, he wants to turn everyone into lizards. I was like, come on, man. Seriously, that's what you're gonna do with that? Like,
okay, there's some plot holes, yes, but yeah, I mean, are we really gonna be poking holes in a villain plot hole? You want to go back to Batman Begins? Oh, we're gonna poison the water supply? Like, that's such an original thought.
No,
like,
great.
What are we doing?
It's not great.
What are we doing here? What are you talking about?
That's one of the things we're talking about.
Okay, fine.
And they kind of make Spider-Man a dick.
How is he a dick? He's a New Yorker, Ed. Everybody forgets this. Like, people seem to forget that Spider-Man is from Queens, okay? Yeah. You're not exactly going to be the most likable person from anybody outside of New York if you see somebody acting like a New Yorker. Trust me.
A man saves your life. Mm-hmm. And his dying wish is not because I don't like you, but because you're dangerous for my daughter.
Yeah, because he knows he's Spider-Man, dude.
Yeah, he's like, don't mess about her. He says, okay, but that's what's it.
Yeah, because you know why? He's supposed to be a 16-year-old kid, Ed.
He's an asshole.
He's 16. Whatever. I'm not going to not argue with this, but I don't want to take this whole show up arguing the merits of The Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2.
I'm just saying.
You know I'm right. I'm right about this.
Dude, that's not the issue with the movie, though. Like, that's why I'm saying it's not that high as people should say it. I'm not saying it's a terrible movie. I'm saying it's not that great.
Well, it came in not as strong box office wise. I also didn't adjust it for inflation because even 8 years, times have changed financially. So it made in today's money $886 million worldwide. Certainly not a bomb.
886 million.
Okay. Yeah, it didn't too bad.
But for a comic book movie and for its predecessor, it failed, by 200 million. I wonder why.
I had Rhino in it too, which is weird.
Okay, yeah, but it was Paul Giamatti.
Yeah, but...
No, for part 2, yeah, we're still talking about part 1, but yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. No, that's right. I really enjoyed part 1, or The Amazing Spider-Man part 1. I enjoyed it. I was surprised by how much I did enjoy it. I did see it in the theater. I enjoyed Gwen Stacy. I thought it was great to give us some Gwen time. I also liked that they took the Lizard as the bad guy, thinking, okay, well, this was supposed to be part 4, so the studio said, okay, we'll take the idea of having Lizard as the next nemesis for Spider-Man. Andrew Garfield took me a while to get behind, both as an actor and as Peter Parker, because I didn't know him from before this movie, other than The Social Network. So I didn't really know him as an actor, which is good and bad, because it's kind of good to have a sort of unknown to be such an iconic character. And the point actually I was trying to make earlier was about the characters such as Batman, Superman, Spider-Man, is... And I hate it when people say, oh, it's a different actor every time. You could have a different actor for every film. Because you show me one comic where one comic timeline to another one, the Peter Parkers look the same.
Exactly.
True.
The Bruce Waynes, the Clark Kents, even the characters themselves, they look different. So just like the comics have changed over the years, so have the actors and the characters on screens. That's why it's never bothered me when they recast. You have to recast because unlike the comics, these actors age.
Right.
You can't have a 45-year-old Spider-Man, sorry.
But apparently you can have a 29-year-old.
Close, yeah. So Andrew Garfield, he did sign a 3-pitcher contract. So I thought that was interesting too. I'm like, boy, they're casting an almost 30-year-old to play a high schooler. Yeah. It wasn't bad. It made almost $900 million. The second one, The Amazing Spider-Man Part 2, we finally have a black actor playing a main role.
Yeah.
He was shoehorned, man. Like they just they really didn't do it just to put him in the movie, man. Like that's Spider-Man 2 committed the same crime that Spider-Man 3 did. It's just too many villains. Like it was, and they didn't give enough time to each villain. It was the same crime. Like they didn't learn anything.
Okay. Yes. However, I think that the character of Electro that Jamie Foxx played was really endearing. It was a similar take to the Sandman character where you understand why he is the way that he is. Mm-hmm. He's not evil by evil standards. He's not just out there causing havoc, an agent of destruction. He's a
incel, basically.
Not an incel. He's more of like he's just a guy that has some mental issues, that has a hard social interactions. And when he ultimately meets his demise, it's not necessarily comeuppance. It's just unfortunate. I didn't have a problem with that character. I didn't have a problem with this movie. I thought there was a lot to really like about it. And mainly it has to do with the relationship and the chemistry between Spider-Man and Gwen Stacy.
I think that's fine.
That to me is the whole movie. If you're a fan of the comics, you know how this is going to end. It's foreshadowed in the very beginning of the movie. You know, you just kind of wonder how they're going to get there and how much are you going to cry about it at the end.
It was the only Spider-Man movie I hadn't seen till last night. I watched it with my kids. I don't know how it escaped me, just maybe life in general. I'm in the military, I'm in the Navy, so I could have been sailing. I have kids. It was just one of those things where sometimes when you miss a movie and time goes on, you just never kind of go back. That was one of these films, and I've heard so many terrible things about it. So I went in last night, I watched it on Netflix, and I was expecting it to be a train wreck. As I was watching it, I understand some of the issues and the complaints, but my 8-year-old son was next to me, and he loved it, and he loved the special effects. This is now 2014, but even he was like, oh, wow, that's so cool when Spider-Man's going slow motion through the shot where he's slow motion and the building has all that lightning coming out of it.
Yes.
My 8-year-old son actually said, oh, wow, that looks so cool. And there's some really cool imagery in this film. I would say my biggest complaint, Jamie Foxx, one of my favorite actors. I love him. He can almost do no wrong. I've been watching him since the early days of Living Color, the comedy sketch show. He's a guy that never ages. I don't, what is he, 60 or 20? I don't even, yeah, he did a great job playing kind of a meek, bumbling guy. I guess it was kind of weak writing how he became who he became, but that being said, him as Electro, the powers that he had and how he just tore things up was pretty cool. And I think they should have just had him and not have the Green Goblin or Harry Osborn. If they'd done a part 3, that's what the natural progression should have been. So it's almost like the studio, I don't know, did they kind of know there wasn't going to be a part 3?
No, I think this was another thing where
Sinister Six. It was that thing trying to build that up, and they just kind of like
there was a pretty strong rumor that there was going to be a Sinister Six movie.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened after 2. Like, I think just the reception was so bad.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
And they dropped everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because that Venom movie that came out that ended up being with Tom Hardy, I think that was going to be in that universe.
It was.
I don't know.
I think that most of my issues with Spider-Man usually have to boil down to either like studio meddling or writing. But like the acting, I don't have a problem with like the acting. Or any of the people that played the characters. It's just the way it was written. I don't know what they're thinking about some of these things sometimes.
That's the thing about Spider-Man, and I guess Batman too, is that their rogue gallery is so vast and so iconic and beloved that you want to just almost blow your load whenever you make a Spider-Man movie. You want to put as many characters as you can in these movies, the same way that they do with the comics. You just want to put all these characters in because there's so-and-so, or you only get 90 minutes to tell a story. Where a comic, you can tell a story for however long the run is. You could space it out a little bit better. You can pace it a little bit better. But with a movie, you just don't get that luxury. And I think that studios, they don't give the audience enough credit to say they'll stick around. We could still be theoretically watching Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies right now and be totally fine with it. An old Spider-Man would be great to see. But they don't think that we're going to be that interested in that. Like, we have to see a high schooler. We have to see the origin story. Like, we have to see the original gallery of villains.
You think by now they learned from the Avengers, though. Because
that's what I'm saying. Like now you see how the model can be set.
I mean, even with DC, like running alongside of Avengers, it's like you didn't see what they did.
Yeah.
And you couldn't do that. Like,
well, now they do.
I mean, now.
Yeah. But I mean, think about how good these movies are going to be.
End game later.
Yeah, but think about how good these movies and these series are going to be now that we have the Avengers model. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait.
Before we get to the Avengers, you guys mentioned the Gwen Stacy death. I'd forgotten that. I'd heard before years ago that she died in the film Amazing Spider-Man Part 2. And boy, they didn't pull back from her death. No,
it was brutal, man. It was tough to watch.
I was surprised.
It's really tough.
Like, she was alive all the way during that fall. You see the spiderweb come out to capture her, and it was done just like the comics. That's how she died in the comic.
Yeah.
To see it on screen, the fact that her back broke in half with the inertia of the web and her falling at the velocity she was falling at, it was like, oh boy, she either would have died hitting the ground or through there's just no saving her. It was wow.
It kind of hammered the point home from the first one. It's like, this is kind of your fault. Like, this is kind of Spider-Man's fault. It's like,
that's the best part about it is that everything that happens, including the stuff in the first movie, it's all Spider-Man's fault. It's all Peter's fault. It's all him using his powers in the wrong way. Yeah. And it just kind of has a domino effect.
He told her to stay away. He did.
He did say that. But everything from his fight with Flash, in the first movie where he dunks on Flash all the way up to Gwen Stacy's death. Every choice that he made led to that moment.
Yeah.
That's the best part about any Spider-Man story.
And that could have been that, but then like you ended with him doing the same old shit. Like it's like there's no, and that's the thing. That's what happened with like Spider-Man 2. It's like, okay, you had this moment where it's like, okay, he had the revelation that everything is his fault, but they don't really like do anything about it. It's kind of like have him going doing the same thing. It's like, okay, well, cool.
I don't agree with it.
So that movie almost made $800 million. Not too bad, but as we know, it wasn't what audiences wanted, what the studio wanted. So now Sony's getting a little bit nervous. They see the growth and the craziness and the universe, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is building. I bet you Sony's like, man, we tried we have an incredible character. We can't quite make it work. The guys at Marvel Studios and Disney, they seem to make this universe work. Why don't we go over and just talk to them, say, do you want our product? And of course, Marvel Studios, yeah, we would love to have Spider-Man. You can read all about how they came to their agreements and what have you. But essentially, once the public found out that Spider-Man would be making a guest appearance in Captain America Civil War, I think everyone's reaction was pretty positive.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was like a universal, just like load blowing.
A sigh of relief almost, because you know that nobody loves Spider-Man more than Marvel. And so Kevin Feige, you know, this is probably all part of his grand design. And he was just like chomping at the bit to get his toys back.
Sure. Our first appearance was Captain America Civil War of Spider-Man. It was cast by then unknown, which is a great idea, and young, which is even a better idea, 20-year-old Tom Holland as Spider-Man.
The youngest one so far.
Yeah.
So yeah, everything's going forward so far. And Tom Holland, he knocks it out of the park as a young Peter Parker.
Oh my gosh. Second British guy to get the role. The first guy to actually do an accurate New York accent.
He kills it though too. And this movie was. Are we talking about Avengers or are we
We're talking about Civil War.
Oh yeah. That. I mean, if Civil War was, man.
Up to that point, the best.
Oh my God.
The best Marvel movie.
I was telling people like. People ask me like what the best franchise is. I was like Captain America.
Captain America, far and away.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah. And you forget that that's a Captain America movie.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much going on.
It's like, the first Captain America, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
Winter Soldier.
Fantastic.
Amazing. And then Civil War's like, dude, like, I don't think there's any other franchise that.
Nah, man.
It's just bulletproof, man.
Yeah. But no, the Spider-Man, that moment where Tony goes to Queens and like you just see the title card, it's just Queens.
Yeah.
You know who's coming. Like everybody who's there. Nobody who's there isn't a fan of this series. Nobody who's there is not a fan of Marvel.
He's not going up for Jay-Z.
Yeah, he's not. Oh gosh, Candace Owens was really excited. She's like, "Oh my gosh, he's gonna get Jay-Z." No, you see the title card for Queens, and you know it's coming, and you see this kid, and you're just, "Oh my god, they're doing it!" And then you see the interaction between Tony Stark and Marissa Tomei, and who's Aunt May now, and who's like a hot Aunt May. You're just like, "Oh my god, is Tony Stark gonna be freaking Peter Parker's like step uncle, whatever? What's gonna happen? What is gonna happen?" The possibilities were just so open-ended, and that's the best part about the Marvel universe is that there's so many possibilities of where these characters and these stories can go. Anybody can interact with anybody. That one was so excited about this.
And what I loved about his introduction in Civil War, there was no origin story, nothing.
Under Roos.
Yep, that's it. You're up and you're running. This is the thing that I was saying. The studio respects the audience. They know, we know Spider-Man stories. Let's just get into it. Maybe he's a few months into it at this point. Maybe he's a few years. You know, he's gotten his videos on YouTube. Tony Stark is aware of him. So let's just go, man. Let's get to Germany. Let's have this fight, bro.
And I love how they showed just how strong Spider-Man is. And that's the other thing I really loved. They showed him in the hierarchy right away, fighting the other Avengers, just showing you how capable he was, even as a young fighter, young superhero. The Spider-Man hero or the powers that he has are quite strong.
Yeah. And one of the things that I love too was a little throwaway line when he's facing off against Captain America. He said, Mr. Stark said, "Go for your legs," because he said that's like your weak point. You know that even in the flight over, Tony Stark is giving Spider-Man the rundown on how to beat all of the events. It's just so good, man.
Yeah.
It's just gosh, I'll pay to see a whole movie of just happy babysitting Peter Parker. Like I would watch that for 90 minutes. Like I love that. I'm going to go home and watch it right now. I'm so
okay, yeah, please do. Yeah. Well, before you do, let's. So he had his own standalone movie, Tom Holland's Spider-Man: Homecoming, came out in 2017. This one did very well at the box office, almost making $900 million as well. Actually, on a cheaper budget than The Amazing Spider-Man 2, so it made more money, even though it made about the same as its predecessor. But it was critically adored by fans, by the box office. I don't think anyone really complained about this movie.
I really had no complaints about it, honestly.
It was heartwarming.
It was good. Like, it was like, I mean, the Vulture,
Oh,
great villain. Like,
Keaton.
it was just, yeah.
Keaton back, dude.
Yeah. It was-
Oh, that scene of him in the car
Yeah.
with Tom, and he's like, "I know who you are." He's got the gun on him.
Yep.
He's threatening a child's life with a gun. Like,
Yeah.
that is no joke, dude.
Yeah, no, like, it's,
And then you got like the love quadrant with Ned and MJ, Zendaya, and then what's her name? The other girl that he's like actually the one that Vulture's daughter. God, I forget her name. God, there's so much love about this.
Yeah, so the big change in this one was Zendaya playing not MJ, but an MJ-like girl. Her initials are MJ, but she's playing somebody Michelle. And it's not a direct adaptation of Mary Jane Watson, but still
it's so funny, though.
Yeah, she's great, and this is my first introduction to her. I guess she was probably on the Disney Channel or something like that for a little bit. Of course, when she was cast to play the interest of Peter Parker, there was people who were upset.
Yeah. That shit.
It's just ridiculous. I don't understand. It's not a redheaded white girl. It's Zendaya. She's not a redheaded white girl. But anyway.
No, listen, dude. People who were complaining about that never lived in a major metropolitan city. How do you look at a cast of people that look like the cast of Spider-Man Homecoming and say, it doesn't really look realistic? It's like, it looks the most realistic.
That's Queens, man.
It's Queens, New York. It could be Houston, Texas. It could be Toronto, Canada. It could be any major city where there's a melting pot of people. Like, I'm sorry it doesn't reflect, I'm not even going to say anything because we're going to go too far. We're going to go into politics.
The thing is about our show is that we actually try to stay away from politics, but it's just that in the past 2 months, we keep getting share shots of it, and we can't
get away from
get away from it.
But yeah, this cast of people looks like the scene that it's set in. It's not rural middle America. This is a major city, and these are young kids, and they're all attractive. So they're going to be attracted to each other.
Of course.
And when you find out one of them is a freaking superhero, how do you think she's going to react?
Yeah. And it's just weird to me that everyone was mad about that multicultural cast being Queens, New York, but yeah, you're okay with an all-white comic book cast in Queens, New York.
Yeah.
Like that makes sense to you. You know what I'm saying?
We're not even going to get into the Friends discussion because
don't.
it's essentially the same thing.
Let's
It
not.
all goes back to Friends.
Oh God.
I think there was a black customer in one of the episodes, I think.
One of them.
Well, apparently Ross dated a lot of black girls, the multicultural girls, so that made up for it.
Yeah, but he might have dated them, but he was too embarrassed to bring them by the apartment. He was
That's exactly it. Doesn't want to bring them around the Friends.
That guy.
Oh God.
It's terrible. All
But
right.
other than that, I really love Homecoming.
It's great.
So yeah, and then Tom Holland played Spider-Man, of course, in the two-parter finale, Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. And I gotta say, he is the highlight in those films. Tom Holland as Spider-Man really knocks out of the park. And I think a lot of fans like me, even Avenger fans, are kind of like, boy, just show us the Spider-Man part. And when he, quote-unquote, died in Infinity War, I know people gasped in the crowd.
Oh my gosh. And to learn that I think that was an improvised line where he was like, I don't want to go.
Yes.
I mean, no music playing. And you're just seeing, God,
No, it
I'm
was-
choked up thinking about it right
great.
now. Like, it is so heartbreaking.
And I love him too, but I am a villain guy. Like, I love a good villain. And Thanos was it for me, man. To have him just, like, I'm like, wait, he won? In
Dude.
Infinity War? I was like, he won?
Dude.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great ending.
The best part about that was going to see it twice and seeing it with an audience that didn't know.
Oh.
And you're sitting there and you're sitting, you're waiting. You're just like, okay, here comes the scene. He's walking up. He's taking a look on his porch. He's gazing upon a rising sun.
Yep.
Here he comes. 3, 2, 1, and then the screen goes black, and then the credits roll, and then everybody is losing their minds, and
Bro,
you're just like,
I had two fists up. I was like, what?
bro.
It's great that they did that because I like that they ended part 1. We all know that it was that part 2 would amend the issues that part 1 did. But that's what I liked is they gave an ending. There's an actual ending At this point in time, Thanos wins. Half of the population of the universe is wiped out, and he got his sunrise or sunset or whatever, and
should have gone for the head.
Should have gone for the head.
I love that's a great part. Oh, that's a great part.
But it also lends itself to in part 2 when all the characters return and Spider-Man swings in and the crowd goes wild.
Yeah.
I don't know if Ryan, if you've ever looked up Avengers Endgame crowd reaction.
Yeah, I've seen those on YouTube. It's fun. Yeah, they're fun.
It's the best thing. It always puts a smile on my face.
Absolutely. This turns out fans of Spider-Man with these two films and of the Avenger films in general were clamoring for more because when Spider-Man Far From Home came out, it was huge. People were still wanting more because it's actually a direct sequel to Endgame. My brother, funny enough, went to see Spider-Man Far From Home and he hadn't seen Endgame yet for whatever reason. He was so upset with himself because he didn't know Iron Man had died. So he's watching this. He's, what? Iron Man's dead?
Congratulations, you played yourself.
So I said to my brother, I'm like, you're probably the only person who ever walked into the theater not knowing Iron Man's death when they saw Far From Home. That's just ridiculous. I can't believe it.
That's really funny.
That's hilarious.
So this movie, man, made $1.13 billion.
Wow.
Yeah.
Back up into the B's.
Yeah, with a $160 million budget. So very cheap on the take. I think they're just able to now make films. I think they're at the point now with computers and CGI where they can do it cheaper than they used to 15 years ago for a better product.
Yeah.
The other problem I have with the movie, like, it's not even a real issue. Like, it's not a real issue. Like, I love Far From Home. I was just like, I remember when he gave the glasses. I was like, what are you doing?
Oh, well.
What are you doing?
Listen,
like,
Jake Gyllenhaal was so charming.
He was
I love
great.
him. I love him.
You would have given him the keys to your house.
Not them glasses, fam. I was like, what are you doing? No, don't do that.
The perfect iteration of Mysterio. Like, there will not be a better one.
Yeah, there wasn't.
There will not be a better one.
I haven't seen a good Mysterio since maybe the cartoons.
If that.
And I think he beat the cartoons too. Like, he was just so good.
Very interesting antagonist for Spider-Man big screen to have Mysterio as the only, and smart that they did this as the only bad guy.
Exactly. It was one-to-one.
One-to-one, but with a committee of people around him to make the vision so great, which was even like an awesome take. Because you think about these high executives at all these tech companies like Facebook and Google, and you're like, yeah, there's probably a whole floor of people that just hate their guts. And so at one point, if they ever got laid off, yeah, you could imagine that they would conspire to put something out there to ruin them or ruin their career or ruin their good name. So yeah, I totally bought this. This was a brilliant take.
And one of the best parts about Spider-Man Far From Home was a throwback to the very first trilogy, which is probably the most consistent character in the trilogy, I would say, was they brought back J. Jonah Jameson.
Oh,
J.K.
yes.
Simmons.
We did not touch on J.K. Simmons enough.
Yeah, no, he was, like, as far as, like, me reading comic books and seeing him in the comic books and seeing on the TV screen, like, that was just, like, 4 pages.
Yeah. There's not a version, even in the video games or in the comics, there's not a version of J. Jonah Jameson now that I do not read in a J.K. Simmons voice.
Right, sure, yeah. Yeah, he did a great job. Do you know what the Jake Gyllenhaal connection is between what his connection is to the Spider-Man franchise, other than Mysterio?
Wait, hang on.
Man, I don't. You got me.
Tobey Maguire filmed the movie Seabiscuit. In between his part 1 and 2 of Spider-Man, he broke his back. And they almost recast Tobey Maguire because he was very close to being unable physically to perform as Spider-Man anymore. And Jake Gyllenhaal was like literally moments away from signing on the dotted line to play Spider-Man.
I do remember hearing that
too. Yeah, that is now you say that.
Yeah, that makes all the sense. I do remember hearing that. Wow.
And he came back as one of the best villains.
Yeah.
I'm very happy for Tobey's recovery, but I remember thinking at the time, like, I remember even liking Jake back then. I'm like, boy, he's a good actor.
But so if we got that, we would never gotten Mysterio, Jake.
Isn't that weird how life works? And we ended it well with Tobey, and Jake's had a great career, so I'm happy all around that it worked out for everybody. And I think Jake enjoyed chewing it up as a bad guy. I think a lot of these actors who come in for the one-time roles, I think they really enjoy playing the bad guy.
Villains are so fun to play, I would imagine.
Facts.
Like, I think that'd be so fun.
And again, almost shot a child with a gun in this movie. Like, they really tried to get Spider-Man out of here with the villains in these series.
So as we ended up here, it should be noted that Sony got the little greedy idea. They're like, okay, Spider-Man and Tom Holland. Poor Tom Holland. Oh, Spider-Man is huge. And they went to Marvel and said, hey, thanks for letting us join the party. We're taking them back.
Yep.
And Marvel's like, well, we were pretty happy. We got 5 films out of Spider-Man. We didn't think that would ever happen. You know, Bond saying, hey, thanks, Sony. We got him for 5 films. It was great. So, yeah, of course, fans were understandably were upset because Marvel did such a great job with the character. Sony's like, well, yeah, he's worth a lot of money. We want full control. And they actually got a surprise hit out of Venom. So they were like, we want Sinister Six. We want Spider-Man, and they actually own Tom Holland. The contracts for the character with Sony. Tom Holland would have had to go back to Sony to do a Venom Spider-Man film. But my understanding now is it's gone back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It's kind of gone back to, yes, Marvel's going to do another 3rd film with Spider-Man and another Spider-Man appearance in a Marvel film. Is that your understanding too, before he goes back to Sony? Or
Yeah, I think it's pretty much that. He's back on the Marvel roster for at least one movie. Mm-hmm. And then he's going to get the Spider-Man Venom crossover movie, double feature, whatever it's going to be. The best part about this whole drama situation was Tom Holland's reaction when he found out that he didn't have to go, where he just posted the video of Leonardo DiCaprio from Wolf of Wall Street, where he's like, I'm not leaving. I'm not fucking leaving. It was just so good. That was like a stressful week. Because like as a fan, you're just like, why are we messing with greatness again? Studio meddling.
Yes,
exactly.
Studio meddling has always been the downfall of Spider-Man. It was just a matter of time for us to get to this point. But I'm so glad that cooler heads prevailed because we're all going to be better for it.
It's like the Marvel's like, man, we all eating. What's the issue?
What is the issue, dude?
Though it would be fun. I don't know if it's off the table. Are we going to see Tom Holland square off against Venom?
I think you kind of have to do it at this point.
Yeah.
Because Venom was a good movie. You got Tom Hardy versus Tom Holland.
Yep.
And they could have the movie be based in Holland. So you could just do that again. I don't know. But no, I think you kind of have to do it at this point because it didn't get the right run the first time around on screen. Now you have a Venom character that is not only successful, but affable, almost likable, I would say.
I struggle to make it make sense, though.
Even though they exist in the same world, they don't really exist in the same space.
Like the way that Spider-Man introduced Venom in the comic book, that's how it made the most sense.
Maybe they do Secret Wars. Maybe they go back up to space.
Maybe so.
I don't know.
But I mean, I don't know. You have to make it make sense, though. That's kind of a big part of it because it didn't make sense when they did it.
No, it didn't make sense.
So yeah,
we'll see.
If they make it make sense, sure. But if they can't, then don't do it, please.
So how we're going to do this now with the show is we've talked about probably the greatest comic book character ever, at least financially, he's the greatest. So he's certainly the best, and he's provided us a lot of fun in these films. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick who you feel is, how should I say this? Now, you can enjoy all these things. I want to make this clear for anyone listening. Sometimes when something is the worst, it doesn't mean it's terrible. Sometimes it can mean that. And not everything's created equal. You know, some things just aren't as enjoyable as other things. We mentioned a few of that as we talked about these 3 franchises. First, though, let's talk about overall, who is the worst Peter Parker / Spider-Man? If one franchise dropped off the map forever, you would never watch it again, which one's it going to be? Which one are you sending off to the comic book gods of destruction?
Worst Peter Parker, I would have to go. Gotta go Toby, man.
That was gonna be my choice.
I gotta go Toby.
But it sucks because he's the
first, but also the worst. He's the first and the worst.
Wow.
Yeah. If it was a hard choice, and it's like I have to pick outliers, but he probably danced his way out of dogs. But worse, you had to pick something that like.
So three was it for you? Like you just
3 was so bad.
So overall, you're saying Tobey Maguire's performance as Spider-Man was the worst of the 3.
Yeah, it's not bad. Honestly, like I think it's a serviceable, but I think that Andrew Garfield hit the spirit of Spider-Man better than Tobey did, and Tom Holland is just Tom Holland.
Yeah. Right. I think we all agree that Tom Holland's performance is the best. Yeah.
Yes.
So my pick, though, was actually Andrew Garfield's interpretation of Peter Parker. Yeah, it was a toss-up, of course, between Tobey and Andrew. But I think at the end of the day, maybe I just fell in love with Tobey's a little bit more first. And it was hard to dethrone him. And it wasn't until Tom Holland came around it did dethrone Tobey's performance.
Yeah.
Okay, so next question. Within the original trilogy, which of the 3 films is the worst one?
3.
Oh, 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think part of 3's issue why bad is because it followed 2.
Yeah, dude. If it didn't have to follow 2, which was, I'd still say I'd put 2 in the top 5 best comic book movies
2
of all
was
time.
amazing.
You know, with all the great movies that we still have, I'd still think Spider-Man 2 is top 5.
It's so great.
But yeah, you had to follow 2, and you followed it with 3.
Jeez.
It just makes 3 all that much worse because 3 in a vacuum is probably not that bad.
It's not
Right.
that good either.
But
No.
you follow 2, it just pales in comparison.
It may. I feel like it made a lot of its money because it followed 2.
It's
the
like-
only reason it made its money.
Yeah.
It's like the same problem that Return of the Jedi had, It followed Empire.
Yes.
But Return of the Jedi has some amazing parts. The fight between Vader and Luke.
In a vacuum, they are awesome movies.
But yeah.
But when you have to follow 2 of the best sequels of all time,
Yeah.
And with
It's like Godfather
Ewoks,
3.
you can't do it with Ewoks either.
Kidding.
So.
I'm kidding. Godfather 3 is terrible. Vacuum or not.
Yeah, Godfather Part 3, yeah. Okay, so the next question is, between Part 1 and 2 of The Amazing Spider-Man, which one is the worst film?
part 2.
Part 2.
Yeah, part 2.
Part 2.
Part 2.
Part 2, and I think, unfortunately, the problem with Part 2, I agree, is, ironically, I think Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone did a better job. Their chemistry was better than Part 1. I think
Right.
his Peter Parker performance was better in Part 2 than Part 1. I think he got into his role better. He found his footing. But unfortunately, the villains made it a worse film compared to Part 1.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. Outside of the Peter Parker, Gwen Stacy storyline, that movie is just kind of convoluted.
Yeah, it is.
So it really doesn't lend itself to get. Part 1 was so good. And we still get a little bit of Gwen Stacy and Peter Parker, although it's not as fleshed out and developed. Certainly Gwen doesn't know Peter's secret, but it's still better storytelling origin than Part 2, unfortunately.
And lastly, the Tom Holland double bill between Homecoming and Far From Home. Which one is the worst film?
That's tough, man. That's hard for me.
I'm actually going to say Far From Home is the worst of the 2. That's only because I really can't stress how much I loved Michael Keaton as the Vulture.
That's fair. Yep.
I really
Yeah.
can't just tell you how happy it made me to see this goofy character, this silly, ridiculous. Go look at a picture of the Vulture from the comic books,
Yeah.
the early.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's so stupid. Old man with wings. It should not track. It should not
And
play.
even when it was introduced, people were just like, I don't know about this one.
Yeah,
it's true.
that was not a good call, on paper. But I said the same thing about Guardians of the Galaxy, and look how wrong I was about that.
Yeah.
So to see Michael Keaton take it to a point where not only was it believable, but again, a relatable villain that you can understand why they're doing what they're doing. They're not doing things out of evil. They're not mentally unstable or anything like that. He's doing this to feed his family because he got screwed by Tony Stark.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or was it Shield? I can't remember. I can't remember who was coming in and taking all the jobs from the work.
Yeah.
Keaton for me made that movie.
That's fair.
what it is.
Yeah. And Ed, you feel the same way? Far From Home?
Yeah, and like I said, it's tough, but I would say Far From Home, it is the worst one. It's not. I feel bad saying worst, but I get why we're using the worst.
That's the name of the show. Yeah, you have to.
Yeah, I have to say worst, but yeah, I can't think of anything that I can really criticize about Homecoming.
Yeah,
It's just
it's bulletproof, man.
yeah, it was bulletproof. So in comparison, it's like yeah.
I feel the same way, guys. Far From Home, and I remember watching Far From Home in the theater, leaving a little wanting, and I didn't like that. I don't know what I can put my finger on. Jake did a great job as Mysterio. Something made me left wanting. I don't know. It felt weird. It didn't feel the same as even Endgame. Maybe I don't know if that's part of the problem. Endgame was just so incredible that I almost felt like Far From Home was like Spider-Man leftovers. I felt a little wanting, and maybe they'll rectify that with Part 3.
Well, maybe there's a cliffhanger too but they just let where Mysterio told everyone who Spider-Man was.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true too. Now we know who Spider-Man is according to the end of that film. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I really did enjoy it. But there's parts of me that almost enjoyed Amazing Spider-Man 2 more than Far From Home in some ways. Maybe because I went in to watch Amazing Spider-Man Part 2 with Andrew Garfield, expecting to hate it. because everyone else seemed to hate it according to critics and fans in 2014, that I actually quite enjoyed it. And then Far From Home, because coming off Endgame, maybe I just felt a little bit wanting. It's not the movie's fault necessarily, but I didn't feel as excited by it as I was hoping for.
That's fair.
The last question before we close. Overall, in the all three franchises, which one was the worst villain portrayal? Not in the comics, but which one was portrayed the worst?
Ooh.
Oh, that's easy. To me,
Yeah, no more.
Venom.
Venom. You say Venom. Yeah, I think it's a toss-up either between Venom or Electro. Just because they didn't get enough time. Like, they didn't really get enough screen time or script time to flesh out the characters.
I think I picked Venom more so than Electro, and Electro wasn't good either. But I think Venom more because like Electro, although a villain was in the Spider-Man universe, he wasn't like a big bad. He was there.
Yeah,
but,
exactly. He was like kind of a subordinate.
Yeah, Venom was his arch nemesis.
Yeah.
They just kind of like put him in the last 30 minutes.
Maybe because I just saw it yesterday. I don't know. For me, the worst villain was the young Harry Osborn Green Goblin villain in Amazing Spider-Man Part 2. I actually had to like look online to see, was he in Part 1? Like all of a sudden this kid was just angry. His dad died and he kind of mutates weirdly into a Green Goblin that puts on the suit. Like he happens to know the suit's going to cure him or whatever. I was like, what is going on? I was like, I'm a 44-year-old grown adult. I don't know what's going on here. Why am I so confused? Like at least Electro, like I understood he fell in the vat, a bunch of eels bit him. Okay, it's your comic book trope, you know, and now he's got the power of electricity. But I was actually kind of confused. Like, how did this guy become Green Goblin and why is he so angry now? It was a very of shoehorn or shoehorns. The Green Goblin in Part 2 of Amazing Spider-Man was terrible.
It's a great point. Yeah.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. It's like also he has a blood disorder. It's like I need your blood.
Yeah.
No. Wait, why not? It's like
Yeah.
And that's where where if they had a little bit of patience and faith and the studio didn't involve themselves, they could have said, let's, maybe you can introduce that concept a little bit, but have him be angry at the end of Part 2 and then make him the main villain in Part 3. But yeah, I found that part like, where did this guy come from? I had no idea you were going to be in the film, and now you're the bad guy. You came out of nowhere after Electro's death, and like, okay, move along, please. He was irritating.
He was irritating. That's studio meddling.
Yeah.
It strikes again.
Well, that's it, guys. That is how we do the show.
That was awesome.
Loved it.
It was really fun, man.
I enjoyed this. It was a good time.
It was good to take a trip down memory lane and recant all of my fond memories of watching Spider-Man in the movie theater.
I agree, and I appreciate you guys coming on, and it's fun to talk to other Gamergator production podcast hosts. It's good to be part of the family. You guys have welcomed me into your social medias and online. Your support's been appreciated. And I hope some of your listeners, after listening to this episode, will check out some of my back catalog. Our show has a variety of different topics, so if something doesn't quite catch your fancy on one thing, maybe we talk about an actor or musical artist or even a conspiracy theory topic. We cover it all, and you can go back and look at the back catalog. And I want to encourage my listeners to go and listen to Stake Your Take with Ed and Aaron. They talk about current events. They talk about what's on their mind, the struggles of life. You guys talked about the show Power for a while there.
Yeah, dude, you got to come on our show and like actually your opinion on certain things too.
I'd love to. Really fun. I'd love to. Yeah, let's make that happen. I didn't want to invite myself, but I would love to come on and just join the conversation that you guys talk about. So yeah,
absolutely. Now that we figured out the technical aspect of all this stuff, we should definitely make that happen.
Yeah.
Anything you guys want to plug or say before we close?
Yeah, just follow us on social media at State Your Take, Twitter and Instagram. Find our podcast anywhere. All right, cool. That's it.
All right. Remember, in front of every silver lining, there is a cloud, and we're here to help you find it. Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Gamergator Productions.